So Reign of Jafar only got one Jafar card. What's up with that? That's a little weird, but that's okay because it looks like the Jafar that we got is actually pretty good. But is it going to be enough to actually make this a competitive deck? Well, we're going to be diving right in and seeing what kind of potential the new Jafar has and if it has enough to be able to shake up the meta. All of that and more starting right now. So Jafar has always kind of been an outlier deck. It's been rogue, it's been kind of tier 2, but it hasn't necessarily been able to break into the meta. And that's been really sad because it's such a fun idea. Jafar striking Illusionist, you can go ahead and exert him, and then any card that you happen to draw, you go ahead and gain a lore off of that. Really cool. But at the same time, that's been the difficult thing because it can be a little bit easy to counter, especially with how much removal we have in this current meta. You take out a Jafar, you slow the deck down long enough that it takes a pretty difficult time to get the striking Illusionist out to be able to activate things. But when you're able to get it to work, it is a very difficult deck to actually lose against because, man, you can just go ahead and accompany that with a whole new world. And just like that, you will be sitting pretty with 7 more lore gained, just like that. And then on top of that, with any other characters like Genie or things like that that can go ahead and gain lore after, will be a added bonus. And you can really get to 20 in a very quick manner. But at the same time, that's been kind of the hardest part here is that we haven't necessarily seen a whole lot here. I mean, we have the Jafar that I'm covering up, Royal Visor. He's able to gain evasive, but he's a 3-2. Okay, fine. And this Jafar Aspiring Ruler up above me. You know, he's able to be a 3-2, and when you play this character, another character gains Challenger +2 and for 3, and being able to quest for 2 is really good as well. But the hard part is that 3-2 stat line, it's so easy to do 2 damage to a character. And likewise, we also have the Jafar Striking Illusionist, who at least has a shift, so that's a good move right there. Is evasive as well. But that's the hardest part. It's a 7 cost. So if you're unable to even get out on its shift line, then you're just going to be finding yourself in a very difficult situation because there's not going to be a whole lot that you can do to really, keep control of the battle while you're going against your opponent. And so that's the difficult thing. And that's one of the sad part too. Yes, Jafar Aspiring Ruler is such a great card, being able to give that challenger. But again, you're paying 3 for a character that has, 2 willpower, and it's so easy to just take him out. And here we go with also the newest Jafar here, because that's the hard part. He doesn't necessarily do what you need to do in a quick manner. He has an amazing ability. I mean, the fact that he could go ahead and whenever he quests, you may draw a card and then choose and discard a card. And if it's an illusion character, you just automatically get to play it for free. That's pretty good. With that being said, though, that's the difficult thing because there's no shift line on Jafar, which would have already immediately made this card eons better and would have moved it up into a tier 1 deck. But even still, if it even had a ability where once it came into play, that you could go ahead and do that, then it would also be a really great card as well. But that's the difficult thing. It's missing that kind of mark. And unfortunately, with how much removal we have out there, will this Jafar even be able to go off and get the job done with getting illusions out onto the field? And that's yet to be seen. And unfortunately, I think it is going to be just a little bit too slow in this case. I mean, the 3 lore is really good. The 4/4 stat line's okay. The 4 willpower is kind of the hurting point there as well. And that's going to be the hardest part here. But I mean, he has a great ability, but they really needed that shift line or when he comes into playability. And we saw that with also the Green Rapunzel. That was the legendary as well. Kind of the same issue. But with that also, we have, of course, these 2 main cards that kind of go hand in hand, but at the same time, with having these 2 cards in the game, it kind of feels like that they're conflicting with each other a little bit. Because on the one hand, you have a card that's going to be going more towards the illusions, and we did get a lot of good illusion support, but at the same time, so-so. Not the best, but with Jafar striking Illusionist, he's at least able to do a lot more quicker because of the shift line alone, and also even being evasive is a really good move as well. And so that's going to be, I feel like, the conundrum that we're going to be in as we move into set 8. When Reign of Jafar comes out, I mean, I could very well see two different decks being played. One being more of the Jafar striking Illusionist, and the other one being Jafar High Sultan of Lorcana. And so, which deck is going to actually win out? That's going to be the difficult thing. Now, with that being said, there is still going to be, for at least the next 3 months, a lot of removal because, of course, with Fables, there's going to be a lot of cards that are going to be rotated out, and all of these big removal cards are going to be going with it so far as we know. Now, of course, they're still going to be announcing what cards are going to be reprinted and things of that nature, but I mean, we're even going to be losing that Jafar Striking Illusionist as well, only to have the new Jafar in the meta for the next year. And so it's going to be interesting to see the dynamics on what they decide to bring back as reprints, especially for removal. But on top of that, what additional removal they're going to be adding to the game as well. That's going to be something very interesting to be seen as well. So I mean, it's like, what are you going to do with this? I mean, with the new Jafar card being out, you got a lot to worry about. I mean, if they have 4 characters out, Strength of a Raging Fire is going to take it out immediately. Let It Go will put it into the Inkwell. And then even on top of that, Along Came Zeus is going to immediately just wipe it out. And it's like, cool, well, I just spent 5. I kept it in my hand. It was uninkable. And now Zeus just came in and took it out. And there's going to be times, of course, where you can kind of read the room on the timing of things as well. But that's still going to be the difficult part with this deck. And that's the hardest part about this is it going to actually be good enough? I really think they should have added, that shift, if anything. It would have been really helpful if they would have just added a shift 4 for the Jafar High Sultan of Lorcana. Would have made an immediate difference right there on that as well. But still, there's going to be a couple of deck lists that we're going to be looking into here to see how it actually is going to be able to do. Now, luckily, we did have a lot of good support here coming in. Now, Fantastical and Magical is going to be a really good one to be able to play with at least the Striking Illusionist Jafar, mainly due to the fact that you at least can gain a lore and draw a card. And if your Jafar ends up singing that as well, then you're going to be able to sing with him, draw all those cards, gain lore off of the Fantastical and Magical alone first, and then for every card that you draw on top of that, you're going to be gaining even more lore with that. So Fantastical and Magical is going to be such a good card. And now, of course, Jafar is going to be a Amethyst Steel deck. And with that, Desperate Plan is going to be hand in hand with this as well, because the biggest thing, of course, is that sometimes you do have a little bit of a difficult time finding some draw power. But Desperate Plan is going to be that kind of key factor there that is going to get you that card draw that you so desperately need. Whether you need to be able to find the answers in your hand or you need to activate the Jafar, both are still going to be really good for this kind of deck build that you are wanting to go with. And so there's a lot of hope that could be had here. Now, with that being said, too, we're going to be looking at 2 decks specifically here. The first deck is going to be, of course, more of an illusion deck that we are going to be looking at. Now, keep in mind that this, of course, hasn't been tested at all. This is a very rough estimate on how this deck could even look, but I feel like it's still, at least, if anything, headed in the right direction. There was also a thing of where did I really want to add, a Peter Pan to be able to give all my evasives as well rush. And that was a possibility as well, but I felt like I just needed to kind of stay away from that, especially with how many uninkables are here as well. Now, with the illusions, though, this is still going to be a very fast-moving deck. And, the Palace Guard being a 1/4 is going to be a very good ability to have out onto the field right away. And then on top of that, of course, you've got the Jafar support and a ton of illusions going your way. I still felt the need to try to go ahead and add even the 7-cost Jafar to this, though I don't necessarily think that's going to be needed, but it still has the ability to get a lot of lore off of card draw, which this deck is still really good at doing. With Desperate Plan, Hypnotic Strength, Friends on the Other Side, Fantastical and Magical, and even the Lamp, for example, are going to be great ways for you to be able to go ahead and get things moving. That's exactly why we added the Genie, for example, just because, if you have the Genie and a Jafar out onto the field and you activate the Lamp, that's a lot of benefit that you get off of just 2 costs. Now, of course, the lamp's going to be a part of the rotation as well come Fables, but we at least get 3 more months that we know of with this card. So that's going to be really interesting to see how this is going to happen. Now, the biggest thing too is that if you so choose, you could remove the Zeuses and things of that nature. I still feel like the strength of a Raging Fire is needed in this case, but at the same time, your uninkable count is a little bit high. The Abu is also a really good card as well, so if you can go ahead and cheat him out with the Jafar, you're going to get so much benefit with that. With that being said, though, it's really interesting because we basically have multiple cards of Jafar at every single cost except for the 1 cost, which is really interesting to be able to see. But even with that being said, it's going to be really interesting, and that's why also I'm even playing 1 Restore of the Crown. Just because if you can go ahead and challenge into things for that final bit of lore, that can be a really big difference maker, especially if you have a lot of illusions out onto the field. That can be a big game changer. The nice part is, though, we at least have the card draw to be able to get things going. Then at the same time, the second deck, this is going to be still more of a Jafar Zan deck that we know and love. And that's going to be the thing with this one, is that it's going to be a lot more basic of a deck in that sense. We're not going to be playing a whole ton of, breaking out of the meta. We're just going to be adding the essential new cards that the Zan build didn't necessarily have because set 8 wasn't out yet, and see what that can do in this meta as well. And so with that, again, we're basically just adding Desperate Plan and Fantastical and Magical. Because even still, even if we aren't able to get out Jafar striking Illusionist onto the battlefield, we're going to be okay because we still could play, a Fantastical and Magical to be able to gain a lot of lore and potentially even dig into the Jafar as well. It's going to be a great card. And then even on top of that, if you go ahead and, play the Jafar on with that as well, you can go ahead and get that going. At the same time, though, I am still half tempted to remove potentially the Chernobog followers to be able to add, like a whole new world, 3 or 4 of them at the minimum to this deck as well, because I still feel like it is still needed and very helpful as well. I do want to keep the Diablos in here just mainly due to the fact that if they do get removed, you immediately benefit off that. Because no matter how they remove it, unless it goes into the Inkwell, you're still going to be able to draw the card, which is going to be a really big deal here. And so it's still, again, a work in progress, but I still really feel like we need to at least make room for the whole new world here. The only issue I have with a whole new world is, if you find yourself in a really difficult situation and you go ahead and play a whole new world, you're without the Jafar out especially, you're going to be finding yourself in a very difficult situation because you're almost handing your opponent the game when they get 7 new cards in hand. And so it'll be interesting to see how that will end up playing out, but, time will tell. We'll see exactly what's going to be happening there. But I am still very curious about how these decks are going to be breaking into the meta and if Jafar is actually going to be able to get there. And it really does feel like, especially for at least this build, that, Desperate Plan, Fantastical, and Magical might be the final 2 cards needed in this deck to make it a higher win rate. Because right now on ink decks under the win rate metrics, you're seeing that this specific build, the Zan build of Jafar, is more so finding itself at about a 46% win rate. So not horrible, but not necessarily great. It's still in the tier 2. But if it goes against a really good matchup, you're going to be doing absolutely great. It's horrible, though, into Steel Song like most decks are. But anyway, guys, go ahead and let me know. What do you think about the new Jafar cards? Are they going to be good enough to be able to break into the tier 1 status? Are we going to be seeing that a lot more? Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, guys, have a good one. All right. Well, that